Mr. Men and Little Miss Treasury. I got tons of stories to tell you. Come and see. There you are. And tonight's story is Mr. Funny Upsets Mr. Fussy. Mr. Funny lives in a teapot-shaped house. He drives a shoe-shaped car, and he has a teacup-shaped bath. Mr. Fussy lives in a very ordinary house, drives a very ordinary car, and his bath is a very ordinary bath. Mr. Funny is a very funny fellow. So funny that when he pulls one of his funny faces, you can't help but laugh. Mr. Fussy is very serious about keeping everything neat and tidy and spick and span. Now, Mr. Funny lives at the very long end of Long Lane, and Mr. Fussy lives halfway down Long Lane. So whenever Mr. Funny goes out for a drive in his shoe car, he has to pass Mr. Fussy's house. Every time that Mr. Fussy passes Mr. Fussy, he pulls one of his funny faces. And as hard as he tries, Mr. Fussy can't help laughing. He laughs so much that he ends up having accidents. Like the time he was mowing his lawn. He laughs so much that he ruins all his nice straight lines. And when he was cleaning his windows, he laughed so much that he fell off his ladder and squashed his prize pumpkin. Oh dear. He burnt his shoelaces while he was ironing them. Mr. Fussy was fed up. But then he had an idea. He put up a sign on the lane just before his house. It read, "Please beep your horn." That should work, he said to himself. The idea was that if Mr. Funny was beeped his horn, Mr. Fussy would have some warning and he could stop whatever he was doing. The next day, Mr. Funny was driving down the lane as usual when he saw Mr. Fussy's sign. So he beeped his car horn. Now, so far, Mr. Fussy's idea had worked. But what he had not reckoned was the sound that Mr. Funny's car horn would make. It doesn't go beep. Oh no, it sounds like somebody making a very loud raspberry noise. Went the car horn. Mr. Fussy was outside in his coal bunker, stacking his coal in neat rows. Mr. Fussy didn't like untidy piles of coal. When Mr. Fussy heard the sound of Mr. Funny's car horn, he started to giggle. Then he chuckled, and then he laughed. And he laughed so much that he fell over his neatly stacked coal. Once he had recovered from his laughing fit, he stormed out of his coal bunker. He was covered from head to foot in coal, and he was furious. He stormed over to Mr. Funny. "That's the most ridiculous car horn I've ever heard!" he yelled at Mr. Funny. Mr. Funny stopped his shoe car beside Mr. Fussy's gate. "There's a reason for that," he explained. "It's because it's not a car horn, it's a shoe horn!" He laughed. And even Mr. Fussy had to admit that was quite funny. Wouldn't you agree? And that's the end of our book. Thank you for coming to Lou's Plays. I'll see you next week for another story from the Mr. Men. Goodbye!